Just a few hours ago, Shams broke the news via Twitter that the New York Knicks were trading Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Karl Anthony Towns. This changes absolutely nothing for the Dallas Mavericks, or does it? The Minnesota Timberwolves are in the West, and a lot of people were saying that the Timberwolves are going to be one of the biggest threats to any team trying to make it back to the finals out of the West. But now, without Karl Anthony Towns and with Donte DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, does this actually help the Timberwolves? Do they get better or do they get worse? Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at all the details that we have about this trade and really take a deep dive into how this actually impacts the Dallas Mavericks. But how's it going, everybody? My name is Marcel Martin. This is Mavs Digest, bringing you the latest news on everything Mavericks related. And like I said in the intro, Shams broke the news. I was live on stream just a few hours ago and just rocked the whole basketball world. Everyone's talking about it, that a very, very late trade in the offseason actually went through with the New York Knicks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Via Shams on Twitter, tweeting out saying the Knicks have acquired Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota for Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick via Detroit. Looks like they may be trying to get Cooper Flagg. The Charlotte Hornets were also involved in this trade as a third team. They were just taking on some salary from New York. They're both close to the first and second apron, so a third team had to be involved for it to go through. But yeah, Karl Anthony Towns is now a New York Knick, and Julius Randle as well as Donte DiVincenzo are both now a Minnesota Timberwolves. And what does this mean for the Dallas Mavericks? Like I said, it kind of means nothing, but it does mean a lot for us. The Dallas Mavericks, as we all know, we played the Minnesota Timberwolves in the third round of the Western Conference Finals this past playoffs, and we won. We won in 5 games. Some say we probably could have won in 4. No problem. Although in the regular season, the Minnesota Timberwolves did have a better record than the Dallas Mavericks. But with this trade, things might be a little bit different in the West for us. The Timberwolves may no longer be a threat to the Dallas Mavericks, not saying that they were before, but as far as seeding goes, I think that's the most important part. Because even with this trade, if it went through or not, I still believe that the Dallas Mavericks have all the firepower in their arsenal to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves again in any game of 7. But it is all about seeding. We saw this last playoff run, we were the 5th seed. We never had home court advantage once for the entire playoffs. And although it didn't matter, we made it all the way to the finals, it would be a little bit better in this upcoming season with one of our best rosters ever assembled, that we do finish in the top 4 so we can at least have home court advantage. Just some edge to us as we try to win another finals. And in my personal opinion, this trade, I feel like it helps, but also doesn't help. Karl Anthony Towns is one of the premier shooting bigs, 3-point shooting bigs in the NBA. Maybe not the best all time like he wants to claim, but his numbers do back it that as of right now in the league, out of all bigs that shoot the mid-range to the 3-point line, Karl Anthony Towns is one of the premier bigs. And now he feels a need that the New York Knicks had in that center position. And they have Mitchell Robinson, who is still hurt. They no longer have Isaiah Hartenstein, but now they have Cat. Will most likely have to play that 5. But will that actually work? Is that a good fit? Not too sure. But if you look on the West, the Minnesota Timberwolves, as Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo joined the team, Dante's a pretty solid piece. He's a nice role player who can give you a 30 on any random Tuesday evening. He can also play some pretty good defense, and he was integral for the Knicks in their playoff run. So the Timberwolves get a good role player in Donte DiVincenzo, but they also get Julius Randle. And the video dropped a few days ago about a potential trade that somebody in New York thought that the Dallas Mavericks would trade PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and Jaden Hardy for Julius Randle, which would never happen. But they did trade Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle. Again, everything that I said in that last video, I still stand by. Julius Randle is a good player. He's still not at his peak, but he's still good. He's still a great player, still an all-star. But he may not be that same Julius Randle, dealing with injuries, dealing with just not being able to really show up in the playoffs when needed, where we see Jalen Brunson really stepping up in the playoffs for the New York Knicks and really putting the team on his back. Julius Randle doesn't really seem to be that player that can do that. But maybe that's not what the Minnesota Timberwolves need when they have someone like Anthony Edwards. They have a whole bunch of other players, Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels. They've got good pieces, and obviously they want to build around Anthony Edwards. Karl Anthony Towns, who's been there his entire career, really couldn't get it going. But will Julius Randle be able to play alongside Anthony Edwards and still be able to put up the 24, 25 points per game that he put up last year in New York? That I'm not too sure. There's a lot of reasons why I think this trade won't work out for either team, but let's go into some of the details, shall we? The Timberwolves' new projected rotation entering this season, for the starters, you have Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. On the bench, you have Rod Dillingham, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante DiVincenzo, Terrence Shannon Jr., Joe Ingles, Leonard Miller, and Naz Reid. This Minnesota Timberwolves team, I'll give them the credit. They have a pretty solid bench with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante DiVincenzo, Joe Ingles, and even Naz Reid, which without Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm pretty sure Naz Reid will get more minutes at that 4 and 5 spot. But with the starters, you got Mike Conley, who's another year older. Anthony Edwards, he's your star. Jaden McDaniels, who's a solid role player. And then you got Julius Randle, the player who really can't show up when you need him to, but maybe you don't need him to. Maybe there's a role, a niche that he can fill. And then, of course, you got Rudy Gobert. So that's the lineup. That's the bench. Is it better than what it was just a few months ago in the playoffs? I don't think so. Let's not forget they also lost Kyle Anderson, Shlomo, who was one of their most effective players in the playoffs, who is now on the Golden State Warriors. So things may look a little bit different in the West this upcoming season. But if we continue, some people just don't think this is a good trade, where Kirsty's on Twitter said this is such a lose-lose trade, especially for the Wolves. I don't think they're championship contenders anymore. Whereas others are saying, I think both teams got marginally better to worse in this deal. And I agree too. I think in some ways, like on paper at least, it looks good. The New York Knicks look very scary on paper. But will it work? Will Cat be able to work in Tibbs' system where everyone knows that Coach Thibodeau will play you heavy minutes? Karl-Anthony Towns, are you built for that? Are you built to play for Tibbs? Are you built to live and play for New York? New York don't play that. So Cat, good luck. Good luck, Carl. And Julius Randle in Minnesota, not too sure if that's going to be a good fit with Anthony Edwards. I think best case scenario, they could be a crazy tandem to just be two scoring machines. Realistically, I believe it's going to be two players just clashing together where it just isn't a good fit. But the reality of the trade is, the reason why that they made this trade is that Karl-Anthony Towns owed about $220 million. And they can't afford that. The Minnesota Timberwolves needs to shave off some money. They have not been good managing their money, with Anthony Edwards being their new focal point. So trade had to been made, otherwise they would have been just like the Suns, deep in the second apron with just a bunch of penalties, right? But let's take a closer look, because not everybody's really feeling this. All things Mavs tweeted out, I don't think Knicks fans or Timberwolves fans are happy with this. If you're a Knicks fan or Timberwolves fan, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this trade. Me personally, I think both teams in ways got better or worse, but I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be just fine. But there's an article that did come out, Mavs Luka Doncic, the Grim Reaper, analyzing T-Wolves and Knicks Cat trade, saying the Minnesota Timberwolves traded Karl-Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks on Friday night, making this the fourth core the Dallas Mavericks have broken up since Luka has been with the team. And that's true. Teams just, whenever you lose to the Mavericks in the playoffs, you fall apart. You feel like you got to retool things. And I think that's a smart way to approach things, because if you're going to try and beat Luka Doncic and you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to be a first round exit. You're going to be a team that doesn't get far. Luka Doncic is one of the best players, and he is only going to get better. So these teams, if you want to make it far, hey, the West runs through Dallas. We just showed them that is a true statement last year, and this upcoming season, the West will still run through Dallas. So you got to do your best, even if what you thought was your best was actually your worst. But the article does continue, saying, we'll let the Timberwolves and Knicks experts debate which team won the trade, but from a Mavs perspective, it's intriguing to see yet another playoff opponent blow up a core piece of his roster immediately following a loss to the Dallas in the playoffs. I mean, we saw what happened to the Suns, right? We beat them. They threw it all apart, right? We saw what happened to the Clippers, right? Paul George walked. He's done. And now the Timberwolves. Everybody just falling apart. You lose to the Dallas Mavericks, you fall apart. Oh, the Jazz. A few years ago, the Jazz, they also fell apart after the Dallas Mavericks dismantled them. So, in conclusion, what does this mean for the Dallas Mavericks? We may have a much better shot at the top 4 seed, although a lot of people believe that we were already top 4 seed in the West as it was. But going forward, getting that top 4 seed is very important just for playoff seeding reasons, to make sure that we do have home court advantage. Upcoming season, the way that we perform will be very important. And the Timberwolves no longer having Karl-Anthony Towns, now you have Julius Randle. It's going to be very interesting. But there's one other piece of information that I want to go over with you guys, that apparently this trade was not something that either player wanted. I'm going to see if I have the actual tweet up here. I'm not sure if I saved it. I did not. But It has been reported, take my word for it, trust me, sources, trust me. It was reported that this was not a trade that either player wanted. I mean, Julius Randle knew to an extent that the Knicks were shopping him, but didn't know that he was going to go to Minnesota. And Karl-Anthony Towns never once demanded a trade while in Minnesota. He was fully expecting to go into the upcoming season as a Timberwolf, and now he's a Knick, which again aids to my point where I'm on the side of this is actually bad for both teams. You just traded two all-star talent players. You pretty much traded them without them even wanting to be traded to destinations where they may not even want to be at. Does Karl want to be in New York? Does Julius Randle want to be in Minnesota? If neither of them want to be there, then it's going to just blow up in both of their faces, where the Knicks looks like they did a panic trade to try and find a big, and the Minnesota Timberwolves just want to get rid of some extra money that was just lingering, right? But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think that this trade actually makes the Minnesota Timberwolves better? Is it something that the Dallas Mavericks should worry about? Let me know in the comment section down below. We can have a conversation about it. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for making it as far as this video. Make sure to check out our Twitter and Discord. Links in the description below. Consider becoming a channel member. We are doing another giveaway. The winner will be announced next week on a live stream. But till next time, y'all take care. Drink water. Peace.